Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Apologies for being absent for a while on my channel, but work has been a nightmare. And well, really work's just been a nightmare. Long hours, working weekends. I just haven't had time to give the due care and attention that the channel deserves, so my humble apologies. And Merry Christmas, of course. Now we're a few days away before the big fella comes. So I thought we'd better look at my Christmas present that I bought myself. And cheers, by the way. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, so no beer just yet. Right, so a couple of years ago, I saw an advert for an upcoming product, which was the C64 Mini, which would be an ARM-based retro console that looks like a mini SNES, a mini Mega Drive thing, Genesis, whatever you want to call them, but in the shape of a Commodore 64, which is, I think was, up until the Raspberry Pi, the biggest selling computer of all time. And that was that. Is that the right way up? It is. It came with 64 games, HDMI port, 2 USBs, but a non-functioning keyboard and a relatively naff joystick. I hated joysticks anyway, but regardless. So the 64 games it came with were Boulder Dash, California Games, Creatures, Impossible Mission 2, Nose of Yeso, Paradroid, Robin of the Wood, Speedball 2, Iridium, and the option to boot into BASIC. It did allow you to freeze your games, so if you were doing quite well, you could freeze it and come back to it from a save point later. I think you had something like 3 save points per game or something like that. Can't remember now. There are a few games on here I did play back in the day, but a great deal that I didn't. One of my favourite things to play on the Commodore 64 was, well, apart from games with good music and graphics, adventure games, text adventure games. And I was going to say point and click, but they weren't point and click in the Commodore 64 days, but that era, graphic adventure. So anyway, so that was the C64, the Mini, non-functioning keyboard, 2 USB, HDMI, and relatively crap joystick. Good seller, £60, great bit of fun, great for nostalgia. You could sideload games via the USB in TheC64 image, and a couple of other images as well. I think PRG worked. CRT didn't, I don't think, but yeah. Good bit of fun, good start. But the most interesting thing about this launch, I thought, was the comment at the bottom that said, if we generate enough cash from this, we will build a full-sized Commodore 64 with a working keyboard with all the features of this and then some. So that was 2 years ago. Well, actually it might have been 2.5, 3 years ago when the announcement was made. Right, rolling on to 2019, December 2019, we have, still the right way up, TheC64, the Maxi, or full-sized, or whatever you want to call it. This is also via retrogames, who's been in the spotlight on Facebook for slightly suspect reasons recently, but anyway. So what does the 64 bring us? Well, it brings us a full-size Commodore 64. Oh. As per the original, this is a 1982 machine. Or is it 83? It might be 83, this one. This is a early 1983 machine. So we'll compare it like for like in just a moment. Obviously, you won't get the ports on the back because it isn't a real 8-bit computer. So, what do we have? Well, according to the Bump, we have the world's best-selling home computer, reborn. L'auditeur personnel, oh no. We have 64 games, as per the original. I'm not sure if the games have actually changed, but what we do have are some VIC-20 games. Now, why, you may ask, would you have VIC-20 games? Well, the simple answer is, this will boot into VIC-20 mode, excuse me, VIC-20 mode or Commodore 64 mode, as well as C64 Basic. I guess VIC-20 Basic as well. So the blurb on the back says it features Mission Impossible, Paradroid, Boulder Dash, Grid Runner, Iridium and Idris Alpha. Comes with the games Carousel and C64 and VIC-20 Basic. There you go, that answers that question. We have USB ports at the back, we have HDMI at the back, we have micro USB power, we have adapter included, it says, power button and USB ports on the side. Now the USB ports on the side will replace the joystick ports on the original. We have a power button on the side as per the original, but the power now goes in the back, as does the HDMI, as does the USB. So let's have a little look if I can get into this thing. Don't want to damage it if I can avoid it. Now I've had this thing over a week now, and it's irritated me hugely that I haven't been able to get a video out about this. So this will be a two-part video. One will be the unboxing and a quick look at the machine, play with the keyboard. And the next video, of course, will be a stream where we're playing some games, testing the functionality and all that sort of thing. So let's have a look. UK 6, PEGI 7. All right. Sellotape. Can I get that with my one sharp nail? Or do I need a knife? That's not a knife, this is a knife. Preparation. See, a professional YouTuber wouldn't do this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so split the plastic and we're going to open up a 30-year-old, oh no, a brand new Commodore 64. So as you can see, it's neatly packaged, very much as per the Mini was. Quite a nice cover. Will that fit on the original? It does, it fits over the original. So that must mean, a little bit of Sean Connery, it must mean that the 64 is, quite weighty. I'm surprised, I expected it to weigh nothing. So it must mean that the 64 is the same size as the Commodore 64. So let's have a little look at this beastie. Side view, so we have 3 USB ports, which is better already. Power button, we have power in, we have HDMI, and we have a lone USB on the back. We have nothing else. So we have underneath, we have vents as per original. Don't remember the original having those vents. Did it? Must have done. Oh, it had vents all along. So the original looked like that, and that's the copy. Okay. What does it say? It says TheC64 2019 retrogames limited, 5 volt 1 amp, serial number 1636, model number RGL004, support at TheC64.com. And then we have some FCC rules, made in China, blah 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 blah. Okay, so we have 2019. We have a dimple underneath the silver badge where the injection mold is done, and we have 3 screws to hold it together, which is exactly what the Commodore 64 had. The keyboard there, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but I'm sure there are high resolution photos online. I'll take a few photos after anyway. So the keyboard. How does it compare? So this is 10 print on the original, 10 print on the TheC64. Okay, so differences. To be honest, not a lot. Okay, the shift lock is springy and doesn't lock down like the original did. That's just a switch. What key is going to be used least? F7 probably, or F5, F3. To be honest, they're pretty much exactly the same. So this keyboard is probably the same sprung weight as the original. It has TheC64 rather than Commodore, presumably because they don't have the rights to use the Commodore name, which is a bit of a shame, but there you go. Keyboards, how do keyboards compare? We have, what's the differences? Restore, return, cursor. There are no differences that I can see at a casual glance. We have the pound key in the same place, the dollars in the same place. Shift lock, run stop and the Commodore key are all the same, except for the Commodore key has now become TheC64 rather than a Commodore key. Now I believe these keys are spray painted, not moulded in that colour. We have a grey key set and a brown main keyboard key set. So this would be modelled on probably a 1983 machine to 1984. The C64 C came out in 1985 along with the C128, and they sort of went Amiga-esque in their look when the A500 came out in 87. Anyway, so there we go, we have the same stippled effect on the keyboard front, or the top of the case rather, which is exactly the same as the 64. The power says power, as per the original. It is not embossed, it is just printed. The original was embossed. We have the same ridges along the top. Power and the 64. 4 feet on the bottom, 3 screws. So, size-wise, let's go back to back. Obviously I can't move the camera in and out because the camera's over there and I'm over here. We're not that technical. When I set up my new room with a proper table and a dolly for the camera, then we'll have some more interesting angles and the ability to zoom in and look at things as I'm working on stuff. So that will be better. Okay, but for the meantime, the cases look, is it fair to say they're exactly the same? To the untrained eye, I would say they are the same height. The line that separates the top and the bottom shield, case rather, is on the same line as the copy, or the replica, the new one, whatever you want to call it. So both halves come apart in the same way. Could you use a C64 in a new 64 case? Well, no, because you don't have any of the cutouts for the machine. Obviously, you're never going to run a cartridge or a real disk drive or a graphic pad or SD to IEC or any of that sort of stuff on this, for as many reasons as your arm is long. It's just not going to happen. We're using a relatively modern ARM-based CPU with 512k of RAM, and I think it's got so many megabytes of storage. It runs the Vice emulator running Linux, so it boots quickly into the 64 and boots quickly into VIC-20. So what else do we get in the box apart from the quite lovely machine? I'll show you the box. There's the box. We get another box in a box. Here we go, the lovely joystick, TheC64 2019. Now this is micro switched, which they said the original one was going to be, but obviously wasn't. I hated these things. Comes with a power pack, I believe. Might never know because I can't open it. Okay, we've got a UK power plug, 3-pin plug. We have a lead, power lead or USB lead, and a HDMI. All good stuff. And we have Commodore manual. No, I'll start again. The 64 manual. A copy of the Commodore manual in so much of its presentation. Epilepsy warning, caution. Your pack contains the C64, the C64 USB joystick, the C64 quick guide, HDMI cable, USB power cable, and a USB AC adapter. Okay. Connect the joystick to the ensure that your HD TV is on before you connect your C64. Connect the HDMI, connect the joystick, plug in the power supply. Oh, then switch on your monitor, and then switch on your Commodore 64. You have carousel mode and you have classic mode. The joystick works the same as before with menus from the buttons, which I'm not sure you really need anymore, but okay. And then we have the same thing in French, German, Italian, and a advert for Protivision, state of the art. Okay. So we have no instructions for the games that come with it, which is fair enough, I guess. I would imagine that the games that are included are a selection of the games that they could get licenses for. There are a lot of classic games on the Commodore 64. There are thousands of games on the Commodore 64. So they're not going to get licenses for them all, are they? Because it's impossible. So there we have the C64 from retrogames 2019. Plug in and play Commodore 64 for Christmas. With a bit of luck, Santa will have one of these under your tree. I know these have been arriving to people over the last week or so. You could order them from Amazon or Game. Mine came from Game in a relatively beat up looking brown box, but yeah, the inside case was beautiful. The inside box rather was beautiful. Put the plastic back on, and there we go. There is the 64 from retrogames. The keyboard seems okay. Will I continue using my original 64? Of course I will. I've got about 10 of them. Will I use my Mini? Probably not. In truth, I stopped using this about 6 months ago, if not longer. I did use it for trying new games on, actually, that I purchased from, what are they called? Cytronic, is it Cytronic? I can't remember. And I played them on this because it was convenient just to drop the D64 images on a USB, stick them in this thing and plug them into HDMI, and away you go. When it takes 5 minutes to plug this in, it might take me 15 minutes to plug in a real one. I've got to find the cables, the power pack, the 1561 emulator. So emulator, or SD2IEC, or whatever it is I use. 1541U at the moment. But anyway, there we go. I'll stop babbling. So what we'll do is we'll have a little play test on this later tonight. We'll have a stream. Might have a beer and a stream if you're about tonight. And I will try to do a stream every day now until Christmas. I'm still working on an Apollo 1260 that doesn't seem to be functioning properly. I'm still working on a CD32 laser issue with my new oscilloscope, which I can't operate yet, but I'll play with that over Christmas. Matthew, your A500 is done. I've fixed the floppy drive and I've bolted it back together. I just need to get my lazy ass in gear and post it to you. So there we are. That's my update for my pre-Christmas 2019. I'll see you in a stream over the Christmas holidays. I will try to do one, well, probably won't do on Christmas Day, but I'll try to do one every day if I can. And we'll play some Christmas games, we'll have a bit of fun, we'll have a chit chat. I'll do a few repairs. I'm still soldering up my Amiga 2000, the new board. I now have a brand new Amiga 500 board, unpopulated. So I have a 500, a 2000 and a 1200 PCB to finish soldering. Well, I haven't actually started the A500 yet, so perhaps that'll be next year. But anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Take care. Perhaps see you tonight on a stream. Bye now. Oh, and Merry Christmas.